Live.
It's time for Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle.
What's up, everyone? For honestly, what feels like the 100th time, but is actually the final time, we are going to talk about this trial. Welcome to another special edition of Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle. I'm the aforementioned Trey Lyle. Joining me is Michael Massie. Massie, we're almost done, buddy. This is the home stretch. How do you feel?
Yeah. It feels like everyone else is off, like celebrating and partying, that the case already being over, and then we're here still talking about it one day later.
Well, the crazy part is we're about to introduce our guest. We booked him. We've teased him all week, and we booked him for yesterday. Then he had a Christmas party, but I forgot to text him as it was going down. We moved it up earlier, so he might have been able to do it earlier, but at driver Mallozzi or Malaz, you forgot the I there. On Twitter, Stephen Mallozzi from NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver, Blue and Onion specialist, but mainly a law student. So you're actually going to be able to provide a lot of questions that we couldn't know the answer to about the works of this case. But let's start with when this first started. I guess over a year and 18 months now. What was your initial thoughts when the lawsuit came out and just like, did you think it would get as far as it did?
So actually, when this case came out, I was in the middle of my sports law class. Like, I was taking a class called sports law. So my professor knew that I was a NASCAR driver and pulled me aside, and we talked about it for a while. If anybody remembers from so long ago, because it feels like ages, millennium ago, the original question was whether or not NASCAR was even a monopoly to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. And that was decided before we ever got to trial because of how obvious it is. I never really saw, and obviously this strengthened as it came out, I never really saw a path to victory for NASCAR from the beginning, right? Because the whole point of an antitrust suit is, yes, you can be a monopoly but not commit an antitrust violation, assuming you don't use your monopoly to commit anti-competitive practices, right? But you think about the whole invention of the charter system and the arbitrariness of it to begin with, and you realize, well, no logical person would ever agree to buy something for $40 million if they couldn't control its existence, right? That's just common sense. I don't know about you. I wouldn't buy something for $100 if I couldn't control its existence, but I guess that's a difference in budgets, not a difference in opinion. So to me, the fact that it got as far as it did is completely staggering to me. And at every major break we've had in the case before the trial really started, I've pretty much looked at the stuff that's come out and said, how are we not settling this right now? And I think we saw that when we got to trial and everybody kind of rolled their eyes and went, oh boy.
Massie?
Yeah. So what I think, you're if you were a lawyer in this situation, though, NASCAR hires you. How would you approach this thing? If, going into it, like, I'm sure these guys knew they had like their work cut out for them to try to prove something that, what might be a losing case to start with.
Yeah. And I have to preface this because there are literal professional rules of responsibility that tell me I have to. Not yet a lawyer. I take the bar exam in July. When I do, I'll give actual legal analysis of this stuff. But as a student, what I think, okay, and what I think was going through the lawyer's head and what they teach you in law school is it is all client dependent. It is what the client wants. And I'll flip it on you guys, right? What do you think NASCAR wanted out of this?
Could power, I guess.
Yeah, power. Exactly. You settle, right? You show any weakness, you already assimilate the power to other people. You're giving it to other people just because you settle, right? And that gets rid of, we've seen it all throughout NASCAR's history, right? If you remember the Talladega, if you guys are real big NASCAR historians, which you probably are, if you remember back in like the early days of NASCAR, when Talladega was first built, a bunch of drivers said, no, we're not going to do it. And NASCAR did not postpone the race. Only 2 drivers actually raced who were in what is now the Cup Series at the time. The rest of them all went home and said, F this, and they filled the field with other people. It was kind of nuts. That's the type of power NASCAR looks for. We don't care who's in the sport. We care that we control the sport. And I bet you that is exactly what they said to their attorney. And if that's your objective, they probably did the right thing. So yes.
Looking at this case, let's start from the beginning. We can ask Ronnie's question real quick. Do you think there will be a split eventually? It feels like now that they settled for sure, it doesn't feel like this will happen.
Yeah, that's a great question. I see at some point, right? We have yet to experience the implications of the charter, so that's my only thing about this, right? We don't know how the relationship between NASCAR and the teams is going to exist now, because in the entire existence of our sport, it's been unilateral, right? And you think about any other major sport, NASCAR, NFL, NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB. What exists in all of those sports? Collective bargaining agreements, rights of the people participating in the sport. And not to mention, that's for the athletes. For the owners, even though the owners and the players have a relationship, for the owners, they all hold authority in the NFL, right? The NFL does not operate as a tyrannic government system where Roger Goodell says whatever he wants. If Roger Goodell came out and called Jerry Jones a stupid cowboy, I bet you Jerry Jones would be furious and the owners would mutinize. Yeah,
he already tried to fire Roger Goodell before, so.
Right? And it would probably work if there was that substantial of evidence that was damning against Roger Goodell, probably wouldn't exist anymore, right? And it's this fundamental difference between NASCAR and the other major sports in this country, where we are so anti-union, we are so power controlling, we are so in this one basket while everybody else is in this basket. And I think that's what led to the boiling point.
So we have the preliminary. We have everything. It leads up. So how do you think the trial went overall? Maybe go into detail. Like how do you think each side performed? Obviously, there is a public. Actually, before the case even started, it felt like the court of public opinion, which again is completely different than what the jury thought. Was very much on the team's side. How much influence does that play where all the momentum is on one side leading up to a case like this?
Great question. And here's the thing too, right? Like cases on, I think, the realm of recognition, this is on an OJ level playing field, right? Because you have Michael Jordan, and there's not many people in the universe who are more unilaterally recognizable than Michael Jordan. And take your NASCAR bias out of it. Do either one of you have an opinion about the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, or UNC basketball? Probably. And that's probably true for a lot of people. So right off the bat, you have NASCAR fans, you've got basketball fans, you've got college basketball fans, and you've got people who have ever worn a shoe brand who probably feel one way or the other about Michael Jordan right off the bat.
And in the state, in North Carolina.
Yes, exactly.
Where he owned the basketball team.
The process for that is called voir dire. It's jury selection, right? When you go through, both attorneys have the opportunity to axe jurors off the list, right? Like we don't want them. And you have to kind of find this middle ground where everybody agrees, right? Super difficult to do because everybody has an opinion. And I read a piece covering the jury that said they got really deep into this one juror until they found out all of a sudden that he's a huge Hendrick Motorsports fan. What a disaster that is, because you don't want anybody like that on the jury. So the publicity of this suit makes it already really difficult to litigate. And I don't know how you don't see that if you're NASCAR. The other big thing about the American legal system and America in general, we're founded on the little guy. We love the little guy. We don't ever like the big guy. We never have. Take it all the way back to 1776, baby. God bless America. You feel me? That's already a biased premonition that a lot of people are going to have, which is the big bad wolf is what I've been calling them, is NASCAR. And the teams are these little guys trying to make it. And like you see it, especially in metropolitan areas where people favor the little guys. Those two factors alone would have made me go out of my way to make sure we never see a jury. Never. But, you know, I guess they saw it otherwise. And obviously, like, credit where it's due, these people have way more experience in the legal field than I do. But just from like an outsider perspective, from what they teach us in school, from our trial advocacy classes, not something I ever would have wanted to get to if I were heading this case.
So go ahead, Massie.
I was to say, how did you feel about these attorneys' approaches to this? You like getting to watch them work as a guy seeking to go into that field, watching Jeffrey Kessler, hearing about him do his thing, Lawrence Buterman, the way he was able to just poke holes in like just anything to the point where he's asking Denny Hamlin. So you're saying that nothing you say in public can be, we can believe anything you say in public? Like, what was it like just seeing and hearing about those guys in action?
Well, it's funny you said Kessler's like one of the best known sports attorneys in the country. Like, he is top game for this kind of stuff, right? So you knew it was serious right when 2311 in the front row brought him in. I thought it was interesting how fine of a line both sides walked throughout this trial. And we saw it right during openings, like, oh goodness, Judge Bell's got to say crap about it already because we're getting feisty. In reality, I think a lot of that, it seems surprising to people. I think that's just being a good litigator. Like, you test the limits a lot. You don't ever want to piss off a judge entirely, which, to be honest with you, it looked like at multiple points in the case, Judge Bell was not having it. But you don't know what that point is until you reach it. So I think it's a great lesson for young lawyers to watch these guys sort of navigate a lot of the evidentiary difficulties of this trial, right? A lot of the what we can't talk about, what we can talk about. I have not seen any of the motions in limine that decided what they can and can't talk about in advance, but very clearly there was some provocative stuff in there if they were trying to sneak it in some background about way. I do think that like you said Hamlin was a good one, but also the way that they tore down Jim France, I think was really, really good stuff. I mean, to get Jim, there's no way Jim France did not have extensive conferences with lawyers trying to coach him on what to say and what not to say. I cannot imagine that I think if I wake up and have 20 charters, that was from something else. But saying you don't recall major topics about the sport, crazy. Just admitting you're the lead executive of like the owner of a sport and saying, I don't really remember that, is just bullshit. And no jury's going to buy that.
That seemed like their strategy the whole way.
Yeah,
like NASCAR strategy.
I was going to ask you is one, and again, you as a law student have a better law background than my one comm law class I had to take in college. That I may or may not have taken the final in a hospital because I was having surgery and I took it during the winter to make it easier on myself. That may or may not be true. Wink, wink. But it seemed to me in some overarching theme that I was presenting while we were talking about these each night is the teams were trying to paint the villain as Jim, I almost said Jeffrey Kessler, as Jim France, and the team and NASCAR, which granted we didn't get to see their whole side because they settled essentially before they presented their case,
right? As
Curtis Polk as the enemy, and it just seemed that ultimately the teams did just such a good job, and we'll get to why they settled. But it seemed to me that was kind of the crux of this case was who can we prove is the true bad guy in this?
Yeah, of course. And I think that's true of a lot of cases, but I think NASCAR just served up the villain on a platter, right? You send damning text messages like that. You run a general history like NASCAR's had. You literally put the evidence on a silver platter for these guys. They're going to tear you apart. I thought what you just said was really interesting, and that's how you know how the trial went, which is NASCAR didn't even present their argument. They didn't want to. They were like, yeah, this is not going to sway them either way. Let's just call it a day. Like, right? Like, think about that. Literally think about that. That is the equivalent of showing up to a racetrack, qualifying, and deciding you don't want to race anymore because of how bad your car is. Now, I've had that a couple times in my career, but what can I say? It's been a tough 4 years of the Truck Series. But that's basically what happened, and I think that is such an interesting component. When it comes to painting the villain, it's tough because everybody on the other side, or everybody has an opinion on, right? If Denny Hamlin's a villain in your mind, he's a villain. If he's a hero who just lost a brutal championship, by the way, probably really helped them in the court case. Because if anybody saw that story, you're probably thinking to yourself, damn, this guy's going to lose his dad soon. He just lost a championship because of NASCAR's stupid bureaucratic rule system. If I were a juror, outside perspective, if this were about soccer and there was some tangential thing that I was on a jury for soccer, and I saw this crazy story about a team that had some unreal, phenomenal, made-for-movie ending ruined by some stupid system, I'd be like, damn, that really sucks. And subconsciously, whether or not I tried to filter that out, I couldn't help but empathize for the plaintiffs a little bit, right? So all this stuff is kind of true. And then we already talked about Jordan and how his picture's already painted in a lot of people's minds. A lot of minds were made up. A lot of people didn't really have an opinion, who are lay people didn't have an opinion on Jim France, and he made it easy to make his own opinion on himself, right? The one thing that I thought was super interesting, right? All the finances, right? All the finances that we got out of the system, all the money that Hendrick Motorsports has lost, all of the money that Front Row Motorsports has lost, which, by the way, shout out Long John Silver's. They must be doing really freaking well if Bob Jenkins is able to pour that much money into the sport. But Bob Jenkins is a guy who does it for the love of the game, right? All this stuff is interesting. What I found super interesting is the teams come out and say, okay, 75% of teams lose money, but 2311 wasn't one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Like, that would be a point that I would have really harped home, because a lot of people forget Front Row's even in this thing. Like, not you or I, right? You guys do a show on this every night. I keep track with every report that comes out. I try my best to. But a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, this is Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin v. NASCAR. And forget Bob Jenkins, who's probably put more money into the sport than any of them, right? Like, more personal dollars. So I might have, if you wanted to paint them as maybe not as, I don't know, spurned as they should be, then I think I probably would have focused on that fact a little more. And like, I glanced over something about the expense report on their Christmas party and how much that was, and they were still profitable that year. I was like, yeah, you know, like, if you wanted to persuade me as a jury, maybe I'd take a look at the financial records a little bit and say, oh, well, you guys are claiming all these monopolistic practices that we want to constitute antitrust, but yet at the end of the day, here you are lining the pockets, right? But the other evidence, man, was just crazy. Like, you saw that Hendrick did $1 billion in sponsorship. That came out a couple days ago. 951 million of it was Ally loans that were sent out. That's most of it right there. But then you realize, like, if Hendrick Automotive wasn't this massive business that could meet so many other qualifications. Example, they got free oil that probably goes in all of the oil changes they provide, which widens the profit margin on their oil changes. They got all of their uniforms from UniFirst. That's another $5 million or something ridiculous like that. All that crap is absolutely something that's worth it to a race team if you're going to find a way to balance the books. However, it's not worth it to anybody else who wants to come into the sport, which I think kind of represents an anti-competitive practice in some ways.
Yeah, it's basically like you either have to have like this all-time marketable figure that can draw in so much sponsorship, Michael Jordan, or this insane business to like fund it. Whether it's like RCR's different businesses where he basically has military contracts, or the Hendrick Automotive Group or all these franchises Bob Jenkins owns. It seems kind of crazy. Let's talk about the case, and then one thing was talked about after the settlement yesterday. It's like a lot of it was finally we are here, and I know was it Shannon McMenemy mentioned, who is the lawyer on the teardown a lot, mentioned like a good point in the actual case would be the halfway point of the trial, which is when the plaintiffs rest and the defense starts its case, which is what happened. Ultimately, they've had settlement talks leading up to this. It's been 18 months. Why do you think the settlement part took basically to the final, like literally the last possible second?
Yeah, I mean that all comes back to Jim France. Like it all comes back to the France family. You know, they're so reluctant to admit anything. Think about it this way, right? You sign this charter agreement, okay? Before you spurn a team, NASCAR could say, F you, see you later. Now you spurn the teams and they decide that they don't like what you're offering. You don't have teams to race, right? Like you're done. You signed a deal that says they have the permanent right to race and do whatever they want. There are so many ways that the teams can now reverse the power structure. And that's exactly the way that 2311's priority was to get a good charter deal, right? And to get more out of it and to get more out of NASCAR is the same way that NASCAR's main goal was to get this power and maintain this power. If they can't get that, there's no point in settling. And there was no real settlement offer where you could do that earlier in this trial. Now, after the plaintiffs showed their case, I think their goals shifted. I think that's what happened is after the plaintiffs put on their case, NASCAR, their lawyers probably sat back and looked at it and said, well, now it's no longer about maintaining what we once had. It's all about damage control because there's not a lot left we can do to save this thing. They probably took a long, hard look at their case and decided the best we can do at this point is maintain the most of what we possibly could have and not all of what we possibly could have. And I think that's really the shift in mentality is really what was holding NASCAR back from agreeing to a settlement. And I bet you 2311 and Front Row got way more out of it than they would have had NASCAR settled 12 months ago.
Yeah, it would have been the main thing is the thing I keep thinking of is like the CEO of NASCAR just cost NASCAR so much money by dragging it out. But after you spent that much money, like, why not just ride it out a few more days and risk that? Hey,
because you're gonna lose your job.
Like the so you think that like those NASCAR attorneys had a pretty good sense of the way the jury was gonna go, even though they're outsiders that. Just because of like the things that they brought up. And I know like they did point out that like they made sure to point out that Denny had lost the championship that year. Denny cried about his dad on the stand.
Yeah.
Heather Gibbs brought up, hey, we should have had a 6th championship this year. So like they were subconsciously getting that stuff in the jury's head.
And yes, and you said why not let it go to verdict, right? Why not let the jury hear your case and see what happens? Because when you're in a room on a settlement table, you can determine what your limit is, right? You could control the damage with certainty. That jury could have come back and given, I don't know, $1 billion verdict. And then what do? Then like, oh, my option is I sell off my stake in NASCAR, right?
Yeah,
like it's that substantial.
Yeah, the judge kept saying like I could do whatever, like because the judge was the one that could basically has to fix the problem. Yep. And the Judge Bell kept saying, I can do whatever I want here. Like you have to like that. He seemed to be pushing for a settlement all along. And ultimately, what do you think? How do you think of Judge Bell's performance? He seemed to be, at least Massie, you can attest to this a little bit because you were there, like amongst the media that covered it, someone who presided over the courtroom pretty well. How do you feel about Judge Bell in his role in this case?
Well, for one, he seems like a real no bullshit kind of guy. He was rolling his eyes from the start, right? Like, and you kind of, I feel like every time I've heard Judge Bell something, it was like Socrates was pissed off. so I think he did a really good job, especially because there's a big and we've talked about it. I'm not going to reharp it all. There was such a big challenge in managing this case, right? And I think he struck a really good balance, which is really tough for some judges to do. Point one is he controlled it, right? Like, yes, it was a feisty trial, but nothing was egregious. Nothing was outlandish. There's nothing that could lead to like a mistrial or anything ridiculous that Judge Bell did that was outside of his purview. But two, and this is the way harder point, I think, he didn't make the case about himself, right? There were some moments where he cast a line and had to reel everybody back in, but he didn't make the case about himself. And we see it a lot, especially in higher courts or prominent court cases where judges will essentially make it the Your Honor show, right? And we don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see that in our legal system, right? I want it, when we have a jury trial, to come down to what the jury thinks is best. And I think Judge Bell did a great job at not only pushing both sides to a goal that was probably beneficial for both of them. Like if you're thinking game theory, the best outcome for both of them is probably just to settle, and always was, which is what he always tried to do, and managing things when they didn't want to settle. So good job by Judge Bell there.
Yeah, he's not done quite yet. There's still one thing that came up in the trial that is going to be talked about this coming Thursday, and that's the Richard Childress stuff. And that's that they brought up the fact that there was the Bobby Hillin Jr. and a group were looking into buying into Richard Childress Racing. Deal fell through, but Bobby and that group had apparently signed an NDA, and then it came up in court and really like upset Childress. What do you think that will lead to? Like how do those kind of things work in this?
Yeah, so tough analysis without the NDA. And one of the things I'm really unsure of, and obviously the language is big there. One of the things I'm unsure of as a student, and I'll probably go into the firm and ask somebody this, is whether or not NDAs are allowed to be violated. There are for criminal cases, but for civil cases, right? And I don't know what proponents of that would be applicable here. But I really understand why RC is pissed about it, of course. Yeah. And out of all the people in this trial who I think got the worst of it, Richard Childress has caught a lot of strays, man. And by the way, we were talking earlier, I think Trey was talking about it. And sorry, I'm dodging the question because the truth is I have no idea how that's going to resolve. None. But I'm not a bullshitter. I could bullshit all day if I wanted to, but not about stuff like this. I truly have no idea how that NDA stuff is going to resolve. But we were talking earlier about team owners, right? You have to have something. You have to be a Hendrick Automotive, a Penske. You have to be a Super Bowl winning coach to make it a NASCAR that could do some type of really big deal swap. You know who didn't do that and is one of the only guys who didn't do that ever and who really made his name in NASCAR by being an owner? Richard Childress, baby. That's what he did. He was a mediocre driver who decided to own a team, ran into this guy right here. By the way, Merry Christmas. Ran into that guy right there and became one of NASCAR's greats. And a lot of it came from IP and licensing, right? That's a lot of what it came from. So now it's funny that we're talking about one of the terminologies was now they get a bigger share of IP. They get a bigger share. They, for the first time ever, get a share in international revenue. The teams do. I think it's interesting that RC was such a big proponent of that because let's be clear about something. I'm not sure how much Johnny Morris had to do with it, but it's not nothing. And I'm not sure how much Richard Childress being so spurned by it also didn't have to do with it. And those two things combined have some type of not insubstantial impact on the outcome of this case.
So let's go over the terms of the settlement. It was the evergreen charters, permanent charters, whatever you want to call them. We will never probably know the full financial terms until in terms of the money that 2311 and FRM are getting. I think it's been characterized as a substantial amount. Yeah. So they're getting probably what they were supposed to get this past year and then some. Their charters back. They're getting, as you mentioned, 1/3 of the IP. They're getting the share of the international revenue for the first time, and then the 3-strike rule, which essentially is a rule that the teams can strike down something NASCAR presents, and if they do it 5 times, they can leave. It seems like the settlement is all 4 pillars were hit, and it seems like overall it was a big win for the teams. What is your thought on the terms of the settlement?
Yeah. So on the terms, I think this is legitimately outside the purview of what I ever thought 2311 and front row could get. We'll probably never know about the money side of it, but the fact that it's substantial is big on its own right. The one thing that I got into an argument with this idiot on Twitter about, same guy, I can't stand him. I'm pretty sure he's just a NASCAR exec burner account. Is evergreen contracts are called evergreen contracts for a reason, which is they're not 100% permanent. They are 99.9% permanent, which is why I call them semi-permanent. There are ways for people to get out of it, right? There are terms that need to be renegotiated. Wow, making up words. There are terms that need to be renegotiated. And while it is permanent in practice, there are ways that it can end. Still, for what we're talking about and what the team sued for the intent of what they wanted to get out of it, they got it, right? They got a crap ton more licensing stuff. That's huge. I could not have pictured a better world for the teams. However, that doesn't mean I don't have concerns. I don't. Because we're still in this position where it's not like the Francis still don't own NASCAR. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're in a position where, okay, the problem was gone. We more so dealt with the symptoms of it. Like, we took cold medicine. We still have a cold, man. And if you keep coughing and sneezing on people, other people are going to get the colds too, right? I hated that analogy. Like, the France family still exists, and now we've created this tension where we're going to have to find a new way to operate in harmony. And before that wasn't an issue because it was unilateral, but now, oh no, both sides have power. What happens if we reach an impasse? Like, the best example I can think of, and that's because it's the public term that we know gets renegotiated every few years, is what happens when the new TV deal comes out, right? What happens? What happens when the new TV deal comes out and the teams say, well, now we're entitled to this much TV revenue, and NASCAR says, well, actually, you're still not.
I think part of it was like the terms we renegotiated in line with the TV deal.
Yep.
I know Bob tweeted out some like incentives where like 3/4 of the teams had to agree on if they wanted to kick someone out based off performance incentives. I can look it up on Bob's Twitter.
Okay, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with them having like a performance incentive on the charters because, NASCAR wants the best people showing up to race in the Cup Series. So you could replace them with someone else if they're not.
So the framework is 2/3 of the teams to need to okay for renewal. So like the new terms. Right. If they don't sign the renewal, still chartered and get a year or possibility more to sell the charter. If don't meet certain performance standards, must sell their charter, but get time to sell. And then
is it my connections or yours? Because I'm not getting any of this.
Hello?
I'm hearing them.
Oh, okay. Then it's Massie's. Cool. And then NASCAR gets 10% of the sale was 2%. So that's one way that I guess NASCAR gets a little bit of a bonus in there. So if it's like a $90 million sale, you get $9 million. So instead of,
and you see the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like NASCAR puts an offer on the table for the agreement. Not all the teams agree. Our option now is that, to me, like, the option didn't change. Like, when I read that, I was like, oh, so now the teams are giving people opportunities to sell their charters instead of NASCAR? Like, is that what we just did? Did we just shift the body of politics that can make people sell their charters from NASCAR to the teams? Like, so let's say, I mean, there's 36 charters, so there's an actual number, right? Like, I don't know.
There'll probably be 40 in a couple years because of a certain OEM that starting the series you're racing in.
Right. Which, by the way, if they don't give me a seat in that free agent ride, I am going to have a meltdown.
He's gonna take you to court with Jeffrey Kessler.
I swear to the Lord above, I've only ever driven Dodges. Okay, I have sold my Dodge for a NASCAR race. I have entered into 2 different sponsorship agreements for Dodge cars, 4 Dodges. Right now, I currently am back to driving a Dodge. If I don't end up in this Ram truck deal for the one free agent race that they're offering, gonna smash my face into a wall publicly and tag at Ram Trucks. If I do, I'm gonna be the greatest brand ambassador Ram Trucks has ever had.
He also knows how to dive, dip, dive, and dodge. Dodge, dip, dive,
Duck.
duck, and dodge. That's it.
Yeah. But yes, so like 40 charters, I think 66% would be 27, 26, somewhere in that ballpark.
I'm not good at math.
Yeah, I think it's 27. But like, so that 25 people agree, we tell 15 charters that they have the opportunity to sell, or the 25. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? And I'd have to look at it more closely to really understand it. But either way, I don't love that dynamic. It's better than what we have now for sure. But I'm not sure that we don't see the same problem coming.
Stig is asking, what do you think of the new Tundra?
Ass. Nothing like a Ram truck, bro.
We'll tag. You need to tag at Ram Trucks. I guess at Colic Racing too.
Have you clipped that?
Dana,
Absolutely.
I think you need to tag Dana White too, because he's somehow a part of this. So maybe at Dana White.
Oh, yeah.
I heard he had something to do with the TV show.
I think he's hosting the Gong. I think he's hosting the Gong Show.
I mean, how did we even get here? Like, what reality are we living in, man?
They haven't even announced it yet. Like,
because and the winner, like apparently the winner has been like, people know who the winner is.
Oh yeah, a lot of yes, and it's confirmed. Like that's who the week is really.
Yeah.
So I guess so like
contest.
we watch them air it like after Daytona, so we already know the result.
Like the Netflix series.
When are they going to release this? It's December 12th. Daytona's in 2 months.
They got to do it in January, I guess.
They have a mini runway now.
I wonder. So if they're I'm thinking because of Dana White, they line it up with the finale being a week before the final, like in the Ultimate Fighter, which is like they guess the similarity. Like the final, they record it ahead of time, but the final fight, like semifinal fights, are a week before the actual like final card, which is live. So I wonder if it's going to be on, I don't know, FS1. I don't know what channel it's going to be on, but I'm assuming like just like correlation. FS1 trucks are on Fox, so makes sense there. Let's just say FS. Anyways, it could be the weeks leading up to like the final show is the Tuesday before the truck race at Daytona.
Yeah.
That's my guess. But
be cool if it aired right before Daytona, like 6
But
PM.
the problem would be I guess you could leave the entry form blank.
Yeah.
Of the person, and NASCAR should let it slide. Because
somebody's gonna find out before that. Somebody's gonna post like an official picture of the name rail. Somebody's gonna get in. Someone will get like hard evidence of who it is.
Well, if people already know, it's gonna come out.
Right. And people already do know. I know.
I don't
know. Mike knows. We all know.
So, well, we're not going to get you in trouble by spoiling it. But anyways, and I don't know if I want to ask you about NASCAR leadership because you obviously race in NASCAR, and I don't want to get you in trouble. So we'll save that question unless you feel obligated.
I could give a shit, man.
Okay. So
I do it 5 times a year for a small truck team that nobody really likes that much, but I love them. They're my favorite guys in the world, just so we know. But I don't give a shit. I'm going to be a lawyer in 6 months anyway, and probably only racing like twice a year. So fire away, unless Dodge gives me a full-time ride. At that point, I'll do whatever they ask me.
Hey,
to do.
you know what? I got this. You do pro bono work for Dodge, and they'll put you in the truck. I got you.
I'll just do colleagues law stuff for free. Funnily enough, I actually think colleague does have a B2B deal with a law firm because they have bench on their car every year in Chicago. And I think that's their law firm that they use for all their legal work. And I think they just do like a hey, you take this much off our bill, we'll put you on the race car for our Chicago race. Anyways,
if you need a manager for those great ideas, let me know. I'm happy to help. Anyways,
I can pay you in pennies. That's about it.
I was gonna say blooming onions, but that'll work too.
You know what? Done deal. That's even cheaper for me somehow.
Anyways, Steve Phelps was notably not at the final day, and I do want to ask you about the Kumbaya part of the final day. But Steve Phelps was obviously not there, and the night before, when a predominant sponsor, Johnny Morris, name drops him in a statement, it seems to me, and I think Massie called him the fall guy. It seems to me, if there is a leadership change, it's going to be it's going to be with Steve Phelps. At least the signs point to that.
Yeah. And what really is unfortunate is, and I will openly admit this to anyone, I am actually a for the most part Steve Phelps guy. And like strangely enough, I've had personal relationships with Steve for a long time, but also I don't think his job is as easy as people make it out to be. Like everybody yells and yaps that, oh, this is so obvious and there's a change that can be made. And I'll totally admit I'm one of those people. I yell all the time on Twitter into the void about how I would love to see certain changes in the sport. However, whoever said, I think Trey, you just said fall guy. I think that's the perfect title, right? Like I don't know how much autonomy Steve really has over the decisions. I don't know how much O'Donnell has over the decisions. I don't know how much anyone really moves besides being opinionated and on the ground, right? And I think that's what they do. They are the Francis version of boots on the ground who go out and sort of do the things that the Francis would usually do as business owners.
So I'll throw you the reference because they kept referring to the board and in this shadowy like figure. I equated it to the mafia. Like Jim France is the boss, and then the two Steves are the two like capos, which are the captains, and they they have to execute what the boss wants.
Oh, I'm an Italian. I know all about the mob.
Yeah, that's how I equated it.
That's not a bad way to equate it. I don't think. But at the end of the day, right? Like all of our assumptions are based off what we see. Like the day-to-day interaction of if you're not Rick Hendrick, the odds that you're hopping on a phone call with any of these people is extremely low. And like I'm pretty sure I introduced Steve Phelps to Josh Rayom, and I don't know that Josh Rayom had ever interacted with Steve before then. And I bet you that's true of probably a lot of owners in the garage and how often they've talked to the commissioner over sport. And like I said, like I think if anybody does go, it'll probably be the Steves because that's a prominent change and NASCAR can put whoever they want. And Ben Kennedy is kind of in the wings waiting, right? And this is like you could put a France in the position, right? Ben Kennedy is a France. There's no beating around the bush. But also, like, I don't know that I would see how the changes to the playoff format and how the next year goes before I made any brass changes, right? Like, that's just my take on it. And again, like I said, I know a lot of people are against the Phelps-O'Donnell train. I know a lot of people think that they're a little tone deaf to what the fans want. But at the end of the day, I think there's a difference between being tone deaf to what the fans want and having an ability to give the fans what they want. And I think it comes down to what we just talked about with the trial, right? Perspective changes. When you realize there's less you can do to change a situation, you go for what the best possible outcome is. When you can't give the fans what they want, the best thing you can do is appease your bosses. And in that case, that's the France family, right? To me, like, the France family making a change doesn't change the France family. And I'm just here. I'm a guy who does this once in a while. I am a guy who truly loves this sport. Like, I go out every single day thinking about NASCAR at one point or another. I love it. And I will be a fan long after my short-lived 22nd best finish career is over, right? 100%. I will still be tuning in and watching.
First, if you get in that Ram truck.
Don't Don't even get me started, Trey. First, if I get in that brilliant Ram truck, because there is no better truck in the world. But at the end of the day, like it is what it is, and there is something to be said. I am also of the opinion that the France family built this sport, and you can't take that away from them either, right? Like, people love to discredit them. People love to say that, oh, they ruined the sport. They ruined the sport. Guess what? They also built it. And at the end of the day, people who neglect that fact, I think people think the France family don't love what they built and don't care about what they built. And I think that's just an ignorant thing to say. I don't think people who build a business ever stop loving that business. I just think it's gotten to a point where maybe they're not as connected as they should be with what needs to be happening to continue to grow the sport, or even stopping the harm that's being done to the sport. But I think we've kind of talked a lot about them being the big bad guys. And I think they're not the big bad guys. The way they act is just damaging. I think there's a big distinction, right? Like, I don't know that Phelps, O'Donnell, Jim France, any of the Frances, I don't think any of those guys are sitting at their desk thinking, man, what can we do? The sport be damned. I could give a shit about anything. Sport be damned. What can we do to make more money? And I don't think that's what they're sitting at their desk talking about. I think the conversations really are, how can we make the sport better? And I just think a lot of people disagree with them on how to do it. Evidenced by the fact that how much money did NASCAR lose going to Chicago?
A lot.
50 million.
55 million. Don't just throw 5 million aside like that, Michael. I don't know what the hell
I'll take the 5.
Yeah, I was about to say $5 million's a lot of money, Massie.
Yeah, I don't know what you're throwing aside there, but 55 million. And that's not something you do unless you're truly interested in an event that could potentially grow the range of the sport, right? Yeah. And a lot of frustration. I talked with Josh Ryome about this the other day with RJ Starcevic and Motor Stardom. Like, his frustration was, if you had only lost 50 million in that event to get rid of the 5 million that Mike just discarded so easily, do you know what that does to the truck purse every week? Like, it probably doubles it over the course of a season. Like, the truck course is truck purse. I have lost my ability to speak English. Finals week just got me out the window. The truck purse is $500,000 to $750,000 every week. You add another $5 million to that, you're talking about adding, $30,000 a week to that purse, which is not an insubstantial amount of money. Mm-hmm. You talk about $50 million, what that can do to the sustainability of trucks and Xfinity, lifetimes. And I've always been of this opinion, and this is where I disagree the most with the Frances, right? They try to make trucks and Xfinity a business, a profitable entity for them where they can market it, package it, and sell it on its own and make a buck. I say F that. Your objective has always been to make Cup profitable, right? 10 times over, your most profitable entity and the best entity, the best brand, the best recognition, you get out of NASCAR. So instead of focusing on making a couple extra $1 million on the bottom line, say F it and make the Truck Series an entity that operates in the red. And instead of focusing on okay, we'll let the teams focus on how to run their business model and being forced to take, I don't know, Chris Wright every week and every season. I'm not afraid to call some people out, right? Like I have got into it with Chris Wright's brother on a number of occasions. And my response is always this. I'm pretty sure Chris Wright and I have the same amount of top tens. The difference is I didn't spend millions of dollars and wreck a race cars on the way. Excuse my French.
We wouldn't have a good truck this year. He's in a championship capable truck this year.
He's in a Mac. Shout out to Bill McAnally.
Do you see the shit? Am I laughing? Like he hasn't been in good equipment before. Like, I mean, come on. He's in a Venturini ARCA ride. What are we doing? So like, we would stop taking Chris Wrights of the world. I love this discussion. This is my favorite discussion. So sorry if I'm rambling. If you need
it's okay.
My favorite discussion is this. I've talked about this distinction earlier. The big four sports, NASCAR. What is the biggest difference between us and them? Well, I don't know about you guys. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. What about you?
Go Birds!
Go
Are you a
Pack,
Birds
go.
fan, Trey? Yeah. Why are you a Birds fan, Trey?
Because I wanted to be different in Richmond, Virginia.
Interesting. What about you, Mike? Who are you a fan of?
Go Pack, go.
Why?
My dad's a Packers fan. And
Thank you. I'm glad I got one because Trey screwed me there.
Well, I'm the only like true sports fan in my family, so.
Well, Trey, you're somewhat in the point. Mike, though, great point, right? How do we build sports fans? One, it's hereditary. Our family was X, so we are X. Two, it's geographic. I have both. I'm an Eagles fan because I was born in the greater Philadelphia region. I've lived here my whole life. I currently am sitting on Broad Street right now. That is where I live. And my dad, huge Eagles fan, instilled the fandom on me. I'm going to do it to my kids. Why? Because the Philadelphia Eagles will still be around when I'm a kid. I have kids too.
I'm going to break my kid's soul by making them a fan of Virginia Tech, so it's okay.
We'll ruin them in that way.
I'm leaving this interview right now.
Why, are you a Penn State fan?
Where do you think I went to school, man? How do you
You
not
went to-
know this? How do you not know?
I know you're at Temple, right? You're at Temple.
For law school, where'd I go for undergrad?
You went to Penn State?
Nope.
Hey, don't blame us for Pat
Pitt?
Kraft.
It's even worse. Who is VT's rival, man?
Miami,
UVA?
Virginia.
I know I went to Virginia.
Oh,
Really?
and that'll do it for our podcast today.
Yeah,
Virginia? Oh
I'm a
my
UVA
God,
guy.
that's like, do you drink Zima? Like, it's awful.
No, man. I don't know. I had a
How
great
does it
time
feel-
at UVA.
How does
But-
it feel to beat your rival only 3 times? How old
Hey,
are you? You're the same age as us, right? You're 28?
How's it feel to have as many national championships as Rookware Racing does race wins?
How does it feel to beat your rival in football 3 times in your lifetime?
How's it feel to be in an ACC championship game?
How
We've
does it
done
feel
that.
to actually
We've
win
won
ACC
them.
championships games?
Anyways,
How does
don't
it
even
feel?
get me started. We were in the college football playoffs. I can't believe we blew
How
it.
does it feel that in the most key moments of games you decide to run trick plays that fail epically? I'm just saying. Hey, we beat NC
Fuck
State
you,
this
Trey. How about
year.
that?
One of our wins was to a team y'all lost to this year. I just want to point that out.
Anyways, to get back to our point,
One of our 5 wins.
which
Yeah.
Ray, don't oversell yourselves. NASCAR doesn't have what we just talked about, which is this long-standing. Like, think about it this way: our kids will be involved in this blood feud that we were just talking about. If I raise my kids to be a Virginia fan,
Mhm.
and you raise your kids to be a Tech fan, that'll continue because the institutions that supplant those rivalries will still be there. If my dad had been a I'm trying to think of a guy, an Alan Kowicki fan, who am I going to root for?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or even a Jeff Gordon fan. Jeff Gordon retired like when I was 13. So who am I rooting for? You know, my dad is one of these guys in the 80s. And like a lot of in the 90s, a lot of the guys that we have who ended up having fans, right? Like you think about Darrell Waltrip. Well, people rooted for Mikey because they're brothers, right?
Mhm.
You have Dale Sr. Well, people rooted for Dale Jr. because father-son relationship. You've got Bill and Chase Elliott,
Yeah.
right? Like all Dave and Ryan to a lesser extent, right? Like all these guys have some type of into the sport. Those are the guys who generally end up being our sport's most popular. But it used to be based on who these people were, right? Like you think about why people loved Gordon and loved Earnhardt and loved DW and loved the Yarboroughs and loved who they loved. It's because they were badass dudes or they were dudes with personalities. Think about why people love Tim Richmond. People loved Tim Richmond because Tim Richmond had some moxie that was like really popular in the 80s that people loved out of him. There were a lot of NASCAR didn't love it, but you know, everybody else did. Like a lot of different things that people loved. And now today, because of the way our ladder system is designed, you know who makes it to Cup? People who have the money to survive long enough to get there. Riley Herbst made it to Cup. Is there any reason Riley Herbst should be with a race-winning team this year? No, there's not.
Should've
He
been
had
higher.
one top 15. right? If any rookie did that, any rookie in a talent-based system did that for a team that won races and had two championship contenders, they'd be gone. They'd be gone. It's unacceptable performances. But you know what Herbst has? Herbst has the money to go and do it. And that's what I think needs to change, because if we design a system that allows personalities, talents, and sponsor relations to thrive instead of having to be so focused on top dollar, I think we'd have a way better product on track.
Do you think another reason why now that if the teams get more money, they themselves, instead of having a Toyota-based or even like Ford had something to some degree, I know HMS is sort of doing it, 2311 is sort of doing it, but like the teams will start investing in the lower series more to develop drivers because now they have more money?
Counterpoint, I don't think they'll have to. So I think, well, actually that's a bad point. Under my theory, I don't think they'd have to. I think you just make that easier to do. I hope they do now. The problem is, and this is the other big problem I see if we're getting back to the lawsuit with the settlement, right? If you don't use that money to grow the sport and use it to become a profitable business instead, the quality of the sport stays exactly the same. For the millions of NASCAR fans across the country, isn't what happened just who's making out on the deal changed?
Yeah, it's millionaires exchanging money.
It's billion. It's people with money exchanging who gets more money.
I was going to say it's a billionaire. There's a billionaire on one side.
Both sides, actually.
Yeah, there's yes, but like, I mean, I don't. If you don't do what you just suggested and put the money back into the sport in some way, shape, or form, or use it to hire talented drivers, right? Like, why isn't Corey Heim in a 2311 ride? Well, we know that there's a little more behind the scenes with Ty Gibbs, but like
that's why he's not in a JGR ride.
That's why he's not in a JGR ride, right? There's no reason he should not be in a 2311 ride. But you know what Riley Herbst has that he does, right? Corey Heim had more top 15s than Riley Herbst this year. Like, this should not even be a conversation. It's truly
Riley helped them get the charter. Like
Riley, exactly. Without that money, they never get the charter to begin with. And if you don't use this money to reinvest back and put talented drivers with personalities back in the rides, that's why we won't see growth. Because without those personalities, without this lawsuit coming to mean something, you know what we are? We really are just a bunch of people turning left.
It does feel like though that they're going to do it. Like it does feel like, and granted, this could be me drinking the Kool-Aid from the case, but it does feel like they're going to do it.
I think you're much less cynical about billionaires than I am, but also I will always stand with people. Hard not to trust.
And that might be the main reason why, is because it's not just it's one, there's a guy in 2311 that, as he joked, he said, I can lose this money in the casino. So like, and their actions have already kind of dictated with like how they built airspeed, how they've performed, that they're willing to invest. And then obviously with Bob Jenkins, like when he's saying on the stand is, if I don't get sponsorship, I'm just going to put my kid's business on the car. Like he's so like, you're talking about a Michael Jordan who's a billionaire, but like talked about how he was a Cale Yarborough fan and never missed a race on TV. It's not like some outside dude that just wanted to make a buck.
Exactly. And I would love to ask Jordan. I've had exactly.
What were your thoughts on the 2001 Pepsi? I was thinking Pepsi 400. Did you agree with Jimmy Spencer?
I would. That's not the question I would ask Jordan if I had one question. The question I would ask is actually, who do you root for now and why? And I would love to hear his answer. And he'd probably say Denny Hamlin. And I'll be so honest. I hated Denny Hamlin for years. Like as a fan, did not like him. Over the past 2.5 years, since he's become vocal, and since he's really stepped into his shoes as the leader, I think, of all the drivers in NASCAR, there's no one I love more. Like, there's no one I think deserves a ring more. There's no one I think deserves a positive outcome of his career. Like you can hate him all you want, but I think he is what NASCAR needs. NASCAR needs people like Kyle Busch when he was polarizing. People need people like Denny. People need a villain. And who do we have that's the villain right now?
Yeah.
Like,
They're
Really?
all about to be gone.
I would argue it's not Denny anymore. Denny's kind of done
I know.
with the way it ended, and now with the
Yeah.
way that in this case, he's weirdly done he's the first guy ever to wrong Chase Elliott the way he did. And I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying that's what the fans think. And he's completely done a 180.
100%.
Oh,
100%.
He turned into Stone Cold. I call him Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm a wrestling fan, and Stone
I've done the
Cold.
second wrestling thing today.
How about that? Stone Cold Steve Austin was known for being the bad guy, but everyone loved him because he stuck it to McMahon. That's what Denny was doing here. He was sticking. He got screwed by the man, and then was sticking it to the man.
Right.
And it's such a relatable story.
Yeah, I agree. But the issue still stands though. Once Denny's gone, who's left? The people that I hate the most now in the sport, right? Everybody had someone they couldn't stand, right? And for a lot of people, it was Jeff Gordon. For a lot of people, it was Dale Sr. For a lot of people, it was Tony Stewart. There was always somebody. And in 2015, started to feel like those emotions disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't have somebody to root for, you didn't have a reason to watch at all. Think about the Dallas Cowboys. You know how often I watch the Dallas Cowboys because I want them to lose so badly?
Preach.
Love it. Love watching. People probably did the same thing for these guys that they hated. But now we don't have them. The people that I hate now are the people who are there because of money, which is freaking everyone. And it's not fun to watch a sport where you dislike half the field.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Denny and Kyle Busch,
I remember
they weren't getting up there because and Denny especially.
You talk about that. I was at the race, the Richmond. So I'm from Richmond, or so is Massie, and I was at the Richmond race where Dale Jr. got Kyle Busch back. And it was the first time in my life I saw that many middle fingers at Kyle Busch.
Yep. And I just where is that? Where has that gone?
I think maybe you see it with Hocevar to some degree.
Maybe.
But
time
will tell.
Here's what I don't get, right? The problem with Hocevar, this is why I think people tend to negate him, is he hasn't won yet. By the way, uber talented race car driver. He will win. And I would, if I could gamble, which I can't on NASCAR for very, very obvious reasons, I would put my money on that kid getting his first win this year. Right? Absolutely would believe that he is entitled to his first win this
Before
season.
Ty Gibbs, shout out to Ed Lane.
Hot take, Ty Gibbs never wins a cup race.
Oh.
My coworker at the radio station I work at, who may or may not be a big Ty Gibbs fan, will probably text me about that statement.
What's his name?
His name is Ed Lane.
Ed Lane. I got
it is his birthday today too.
Ed, happy birthday, baby, from yours truly. The guy, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver with as many cup wins as Ty Gibbs. Second, I just want to tell you, the epitome of what's wrong with NASCAR today, man. So he's not winning shit. Not winning shit. Send this clip right to Ed Lane. Send it to him. Right to and put the caption "Happy Birthday." Happy birthday. And by the way, most, if not all of these people are really good people. If you to kind of bookend this conversation, because we've talked a lot of negativity about some people in particular, like Riley, and I think I said some things about Chris Wright. I've actually never had a problem with Chris Wright. It's his brother who's a complete jack off. But most of the people in the sport are great guys. Riley's a great guy, super nice. Ty Gibbs is a very nice kid if you actually talk to him. Steve Phelps is a really nice guy. Steve O'Donnell's a really these are all really nice guys if you talk to them. Legitimately one of the most approachable people I've ever had a conversation with is Ben Kennedy. And I bet you he doesn't even remember talking to me. So it's one of those things where I think at the end of the day, people think that there's a good guy and a bad guy. And I think people need to realize it's more there's a right guy and a wrong guy. And a lot of the people I work with in NASCAR and I've talked to in NASCAR, and by the way, I by no means want to come across as I am somebody who is ultimately important in the grand scheme of the sport. I am not. But I do know, and I have had interactions with a lot of these people. And none of them are bad guys, man. They just aren't. So I think there is a path forward. I think that this lawsuit is a step in the right direction, but I think there needs to be some caution in the way that it's used. And that's where my head is at right now.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on Jim France. Is he's not this evil guy in the back.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I think he truly, and his testimony made me realize this, that he's just trying to run it the way he saw his dad run it.
Yes.
He's 81 years old. Like, he's also 81 years old. Like, let's
He's
like,
81.
he's
But,
81 years
his
and he
dad,
was
this
thrown into
stuff
this
worked.
position. Like,
Yeah, he was
let's
thrown
not
in
forget,
it.
it's not like he was the one groomed to be the CEO of NASCAR. He was thrown into this position because of his nephew, right? His nephew.
Yeah.
Nephew effed up. Like,
But so he's just doing what his dad did, but
yeah.
what his dad did worked at the time.
It's
Times
just different.
change, you know.
But also, who was the guy that kind of talk him off the ledge? Ironically, like when Senior would do stuff, was Dale Earnhardt, and there's no like Denny Hamlin's not. So this is gonna be my final question. It's gonna go back to the case because we have gone down a path I did not imagine, but no, don't be sorry. I appreciate. I love the conversation. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait to clip. I can't wait to send that special part to Ed Lane. But the kumbaya of the after the settlement was kind of surreal. That's how it was described by Dalton. It was described by Gluck and Bianchi. Jim France and Denny Hamlin hugged, and this was Denny Hamlin who said, I think on Twitter, said the France family needs to get out of NASCAR. It felt like you've been in, I'm assuming, mock trials and stuff, but it was so contentious. How would you relate that into like going from so contentious during the trial to this kind of like kumbaya moment with the settlement? It felt like you raced someone really hard and maybe even like too over the limit for the entire race, and then at the end, instead of like talking about it, you just like hugged.
Yeah, I think it was bullshit, but that's just me. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I find it really hard to believe that these guys. The kumbaya moment was for exactly that, right? You're talking about it. You just said it. You actually just encapsulated exactly what I think they tried to get out of it, which is, it's a service, duked it out, and now we're back to normal. We're good. And I think that's what NASCAR wanted. I actually probably think that's what Denny wanted. I think that's what 2311 probably wanted. But there will always be some contention there for sure. Faux show.
Yeah.
Massie, you got anything else?
I don't know. You send him out on. Did you get your Ray teammate Frankie Muniz to put you in the new season of Malcolm in the Middle?
No, I didn't. But I will say it is always really funny because a lot of people don't believe that I know Frankie Muniz, and I'm like, yeah, I know Frankie Muniz, and they're like,
I would have been like, I know Agent Cody Banks.
Well, but that's not the part that's crazy. The part that's crazy is they ask how I know him. I'm like, he races in NASCAR, and they're like, I'm talking about Frankie Muniz, the actor, and I'm like, yes, that actor is still an actor. And has now since started racing full-time in the NASCAR Truck Series, coincidentally for the team that I happen to race and drive for occasionally, with drive being the operative term. I tend to punt around in circles very slowly for about 11 laps. Yeah, so that's – I am not, unfortunately, in the new season of Malcolm in the Middle.
Dang.
But, yeah.
You think you'll be able to get an early screening of it, though?
No. I wish.
All these executives, so that
I'll be sure to call him and ask him. I'll say, "Hey, Frankie, I know I've never called you before in my life, but you think I can maybe get a pre-screening?"
Remember that drafting at Talladega I helped you with? Can I get a pre-screening? I don't know if you raced at Talladega with him. I'm just making something up.
I've never even raced at Talladega and Daytona, but thanks for kicking me in the nuts and reminding me of that. Because it's like the one thing I want to do. And I had a deal in place to do it in the Xfinity race in the fall, and I wasn't approved. and I had a complete meltdown. At
What?
that. Sorry for another day.
At
I'm
Ram
approved-
Truck.
Wait a minute, but
Right.
I'm approved to do it in trucks.
At Ram Trucks.
I doubt they get me. If they give me a ride, which I hope they do, I would really want it to be Talladega Daytona. Secondarily, would love it to be Pocono. But any race, I will be very emotional about getting that opportunity. And I think if I got that opportunity, I could truly walk away from racing knowing that I had a shot in decent equipment. And like if I got there and run 15th, right? And who knows what Ram trucks are going to be like, right? Realistically, they're a brand new team,
It's gonna be a
brand
struggle.
new development. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. But if I'm running with the Daniel Dyes of the team, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm going to walk away from that thinking this is something I could probably do. And I just want that opportunity to know for the rest of my life, hey, was I ever really good enough to do this? Because let's be honest, nobody really knows. If you put a peg in how talented I am or am not, you really would have no way of knowing that. None.
Yeah.
You would just think, oh, I mean, probably the average fan thinks I'm complete and total ass. But like anybody who really looks at what I've driven and what I've done, it's probably like, yeah, we don't actually really know what this kid could be. So.
At Driver Malaz on Twitter. Future Ram Truck free agent. I don't know what they're calling it. Free agent car.
Free agent. Yep.
Car driver.
Yep.
I'm going to manifest that for you. And just remember, if you get it, just come back to this moment.
Can I use Front Stretch to promote specifically me? Just be like, oh, Ram Trucks, please put Stephen Mallozzi in the free agent program.
Yeah, we'll call that pro bono work from us.
Yeah, I'll. You know what? That's fine. I will. First legal matter Front Stretch gets into, I will handle if I get the Ram Trucks deal from you guys. I'll call it all the forces. I'll get TobyChristie.com. I'll get Front Stretch. I'll get freaking RJ Starcevic. I'll go talk to Bianchi. I'll get him. I don't know Bianchi that well. I don't know him at all, really. But I'll go get him. I'll go, guys. Let's do Stephen Mallozzi. But I don't know. I would, yeah. You know what I mean. So, anyways, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on.
Yeah,
it was a great,
appreciate you coming on.
Conversation. And I look forward to the next time we talk. Hopefully, it's not about a lawsuit.
I hope so. We'll get you maybe on another episode of Happy Hour during the season. So, we'll do that. But for Stephen Mallozzi, Michael Massie, I'm Trey Lyle. Finally done with all of these.
No more lawsuit.
No more lawsuit. Knock on wood. Signing off for now. Bye, everybody.